February the 6th. Ian Cameron and Conor Mack with you. We are ready to break down this Saturday college basketball card. Looking forward to it. It's a big slate, lots of interesting games. CMAC, let's get right to it because we've got an hour. We want to get through as many games as possible. Let's start with the Big 12. Iowa State taking on Oklahoma, a noon Eastern tip-off. We always start with the earliest games. Oklahoma, 14.5-point home favorites, 141 the total in this game. Big injury news in a good way for Oklahoma. Austin Reeves, the talented guard, leading scorer, and rebounds and assists as well for this team. He leads in all three categories, making his return today for the Oklahoma Sooners against Iowa State. We talked about how Oklahoma's been banged up. They've been shorthanded the last few games, but you wouldn't know it with their effort. I mean, they beat Texas on the road. They beat Kansas. They beat Alabama, and nobody's been beating Alabama lately, but Oklahoma did last Saturday. And then at Texas Tech, tough team on the road after a short turnaround, after a big win against Bama, and a valiant effort, despite being shorthanded in that game as well, losing only by 5, covering the point spread. They've been a point spread machine at Oklahoma, 6 straight covers, 7, in fact. 7-0 against the spread their last 7 games. I think it's tough to bet against them, but you're now laying more points here with Oklahoma. There's been an adjustment to how great Lon Kruger's team has played lately. And Iowa State is not one of these dead dogs late in the season that some of these bad teams are. You know, you're getting an effort from Steve Prohm's team. They've been banged up too. You got it the last game against West Virginia, 76-72. I shouldn't say you've gotten it all season. They had really been pummeled and beaten down the last several games prior to that. But the West Virginia performance, you know, battling the Mountaineers down to the wire, only losing by 4 at home is impressive. And they're starting to get healthier. A lot of the bad play for this team was caused by being shorthanded, guys out with COVID, guys with injuries. Iowa State and the Cyclones are starting to get some of those players back now. So they might be a little bit more competitive. I'd be leery about laying 14 with Oklahoma. You know, Alabama was a good spot, good price. Same with Tech. I don't want to go against Bama, and I don't go against teams in the 7 straight point spread covers like Oklahoma's on, but you're paying more of a premium here with Oklahoma. I think I might go with the over, though, in this game. Iowa State's trending over the total of late. They're not playing a lot of defense at all. In fact, their defense has been hideous, but they're starting to score, and you saw that against West Virginia. Now they got a couple of their better scorers back, 72 points in that game. Iowa State's gone over the total in 5 straight games. Oklahoma has gone over in 2-2 in their last 4. And the last game was very low scoring, and the Bama game stayed under, but Bama didn't look all that focused. I kind of think they took Oklahoma lightly. They've been in some slog type of games here, Oklahoma, the last couple. But now they're going to be facing a team that's going to go up and down, that's not playing defense. You know, and then those games like with Texas and Kansas, we did see some overs with Oklahoma. And, of course, with Reeves back, they should be a better offensive team. That's their leading scorer. So I like the over here, 141. CMAC, what do you think, Iowa State, Oklahoma?
Yeah, this one's a tough one. You kind of hit on all the points. This one stayed off my early morning card because all the points you just mentioned. Oklahoma's getting healthier. They won 7 in a row. How do you go against that? And I've been on Oklahoma this whole train here lately. But I don't know about here. I just couldn't get myself to think about laying 14.5 or 15. And Iowa State covered last game. They haven't been good as on the road as they have been at home. If I had to bet this one, I would take the points with Iowa State, as crazy as it sounds, but I want to stay far away from it, and I did. I had to keep it off. This was one I had to keep off the card totally.
All right, good stuff. Fat Wally,
give a shout out.
Yeah, sport. Yeah, excellent.
To our guy, Fat Wally. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it, Jake. Everybody in the chat, everybody watching live, thank you for that. We appreciate it. Hope you're enjoying the show every Saturday morning right here, 11 a.m. Eastern time, 8 a.m. Pacific. Virginia Tech, Miami. Virginia Tech, 5.5-point road favorites, 132 the total in this game. I like the way Tech's playing. Virginia Tech's just one of those teams. They're playing good basketball. Miami, I'm telling you what, we're ready to throw Miami out in the dumpster. And then what do? They roar back and beat Duke, on Monday after just being horrible and just on a complete and utter free fall, the Hurricanes prior to that game against Duke. I worry about the spot, though, a huge win. Can they keep it up? I'm not so sure. they've been banged up. They've had guys missing all season in every game. I'm not stepping in front of Virginia Tech, and it's not like this is the greatest of spots for Miami. At least it's not a spot I trust them in. In these games that are, it's silly season in college basketball in February, weird results, bizarre situations. You get it all the time. This is not a time of season where I'm going to force something. And this is one of those games where I feel like if I bet it, I'm forcing something. I lean Tech, but not going to get there at -5.5 in this one. Connor, what do you think?
Yeah, I didn't get there either. Here to answer Jake, in that one, I wanted a little bit more. It got steamed up. If it was like 3.5 when it opened, I would lean Butler. But I like DePaul a little bit, catching those points. I don't know if they cover.
Again, I don't trust either team. I don't trust Butler
Yeah.
laying 6.5, and I don't trust DePaul to do anything for me. So easy pass for me. Sorry, Jake.
Yeah, I think DePaul with the points is the way I'd go there. And in this one, it didn't make my card. I look towards the over here. I think they finally have dropped it a little too low. Some Miami games have been lower, and some Va-Tech games. But I took the Va-Tech Pitt game, and that went over. I thought that was catching too many points low. We talked about the other day. I'd look towards this over 131, 131.5. I think it can get over this total. I mean, it's not very high. I think it can easily be 70, 65. I think we can get over here in this game.
All right, next
Nothing
up,
on the side. Sorry, I didn't touch on the side. Miami, how they played. Are they a little bit healthier? I'm a bit on Va-Tech, you and me both. But I think it's a little tricky spot. So I stayed off that on the side on that one.
All right, next up, we got Big East action with Seton Hall taking on UConn. Seton Hall 1-point road favorites here in this game. The total 132, pretty much across the board in this one. Hey, February and March, and maybe that win over Providence earlier this week for Seton Hall, 60-43 is proof. February and March, it becomes Seton Hall's world, and we're just living in it. This is usually that time of year where Seton Hall is turning it up, playing their best basketball. I've seen Kevin Willard's team now for years. When they had Miles Powell, going back to when they've had some, then they had Desi Rodriguez and Delgado and all of these players that they've had in years past. They always peak February into March, and sure enough, the calendar turns to February. First game in February for Seton Hall. What do? They blow the doors off Providence, 60-43. Give me Seton Hall here. I think they're going to heat up. We know the team's talented. We know Sandro Mamukelashvili, one of the better big men going in the Big East, if not the country. Their guard play, I think, has gotten better. Their defense, finally, which had been their Achilles heel this season, finally stepped up in a big way. And they know they need road wins, and UConn, who's a pretty solid team, 8-3 overall, 5-3 in Big East play. This is their chance, to be able to show we can beat a pretty solid team on the road, help that tournament resume a little bit. Of course, James Bouknight hasn't played the last 5 games for UConn. That's an issue. I think this is a gettable game here for Seton Hall, and I don't like betting against this team at this time of year. We've seen it too many times over the years with Willard and this Pirates group. They play their best right around now, February into March. I like Seton Hall to get the road W here. Connor, what do you think?
I didn't see any value here with Seton Hall laying a point. I didn't like it. If I had to, I'd maybe roll with UConn, but I'm on the under here. UConn's been an under team, and I like how Seton Hall's been playing a bit lately towards under, as they just showed in that Providence game, whatever it was, 63-47. The total was 122 in their Butler game, UConn. They won 63-51. That's how they got to win games and stay in games right now until they get a little more healthier. So I think the total is a little high at 133.5. So I'm on the under in this one.
Yeah, and UConn's defense, look, they've slowed it down this year under Dan Hurley. He knows they don't have the offensive firepower this year, especially without Bouknight playing. And they've relied on their defense. Their defense is really good. UConn defensively, in this conference, their numbers are extremely good at that end of the floor. And I think the under does make some sense because we didn't see Seton Hall finally D-up in their last game against Providence. And maybe they're turning things around at that end of the floor. We got a good one at noon as well in the SEC, Alabama, Missouri. Alabama, 3.5-point road favorites. There is some money coming in now on Alabama. So if you like that side, get to it quickly. 151.5 the total. When you look at Missouri and their results, I've noticed something in regards to their totals. When they're playing a team that scores, team that plays with a little bit of pace, Missouri is like one of those teams that I've said this before. I've used this expression. They'll dance. When they go to the dance floor with the opponent, they'll dance to the type of tune and the type of song that the opponent wants to listen to or dance to. If the team is a fast-paced team, they'll go fast. They'll run up and down a little bit with them. If the team wants to slow it down, they'll play a half-court style of basketball game in that regard. And you've seen that with Missouri a little bit. They play Auburn, it goes up and down the floor. They play South Carolina, fast team, it goes up and down the floor. They play A&M, slow, plodding team, very little offense. The game stays under. Arkansas, up and down, that game goes over the total. So Arkansas seems to play unders with teams that play slow, that aren't great offensively, and they seem to trend over against teams that are pretty good offensively and will play a very fast tempo, which, of course, Nate Oates and Alabama will here in this game. So I'm going to look over here at 150.5, or I think it's actually a little bit more than that. Yes, 151.5 is the total here in this game. I think it can get there. I'm certainly not going against Bama. I like this team. I've got futures on them. I have an 80-1 shot with Alabama to win the NCAA title, the national championship from before the season. They're down around 25-1 right now. So, I've got a good number in my pocket with Alabama to win it all. I ain't going against them right now. I'm looking forward to this game, though, because Missouri's not going to be a pushover for Alabama. This Missouri team is playing well. They're coming off a nice win against Kentucky. Now, Kentucky's not done anything on the road, but you got to give them credit still for beating the Wildcats. It's a tough one. What concerns me for Missouri is the last time they faced a team that was really gifted offensively, it was the Sharif Cooper Auburn team. They lost 88-82, and they got shredded. Gave up 23 of 55 shooting in that game, and they put Auburn at the line consistently. The kind of prototype that Alabama is, very similar. So that's what worries me for Missouri. So I'd lean Alabama, but I like the over. Conor, what do you think, Alabama, Missouri?
Yeah, this should be a good one. I'm worried. I don't know if the total will get there. We'll see, because both teams can play some defense at times. Alabama can, and we know Missouri can. So I was a little gun shy on that. But now, especially that it's hit 3, I like Missouri at home. I'm going to take the 3 points. I think it's close. So if it's in a close game, I want the home team catching 3. So I'm on Missouri in this one. And nothing against Alabama. I'm just trying to find a spot where I think, a game was tight like Oklahoma last week. I think it will be. We'll see. If they go in and beat Missouri handily, look out. We already said look out, but I mean, they're already there. But that would really be another statement on their way towards the conference tournament and then the NCAA tournament. But I got to take the points with Missouri. I think catching 3 at home, it's the side here. So I got to take it.
And we've clearly seen from this NCAA tournament selection committee now several years, people that follow this closely know what's valued. If there's 2 teams with comparable resumes and it's down to those 2 teams for one of the final at-large spots in the tournament, they're going to look right away to road wins and quality of road wins. Yeah. That's what they're going to look at there, with these teams. So if you're Alabama, you are always incentivized to get wins like this on the road in conference play against a pretty good team, which Missouri is. So it'll be interesting to see, can Alabama get it done? Remember, Alabama lost at Oklahoma last week. So I think the onus is on Alabama now. Let's get this done here on the road. The question is, will they? Because Missouri's a pretty good team in their own right. Let's go to Big East action now. St. John's taking on Providence. Providence 1.5, 2-point home favorites, 145.5 the total. It's been an absolutely unbelievable run, straight up ATS, you name it, for St. John's, no question. And I'm kicking myself that I didn't take something on them plus 10 against Villanova, and just a little bit frightened of betting against Villanova. And sure enough, St. John's, a great performance. I mean, the job they did defensively on Villanova is the part that shocked me. I mean, this is a St. John's team. They couldn't stop a nosebleed at the defensive end of the basketball court earlier this season. And to see them just completely frustrate Villanova's top scorers, top shooters, earlier this week on that Wednesday night game was very, very impressive. Mike Anderson's team is rolling right now. But handicapping 101 says, if you've had your fun betting on St. John's, I took them against Providence. I probably should have taken them against Villanova, and I didn't. Betting 101 says this might be the time to jump off St. John's here. Is it a letdown spot? Does this team have the poise, the maturity to be able to withstand a huge win that might have gotten them in the tournament, to be honest with you? That might, or at least it got them right back in the conversation to be in the NCAA tournament. This has that makings of potential, slip on the banana peel spot here for St. John's against Providence. But Providence has got issues right now a little bit. They haven't exactly been consistent. They got wiped out by Seton Hall in their last game. You would think Providence fires back strong here. It's just such a clear and obvious potential letdown spot for St. John's that it's I wouldn't be backing them here. They're on a great run. I'm not in a rush to fade them either, but it's just St. John's. The spot for St. John's is concerning enough. I think they're at flat out better form right now than Providence, but there is no doubt I am concerned about whether this team's got that level of maturity and poise off the biggest win they've had of their season by far to focus, go on the road, and beat this still very tough, gritty Providence team. That's the one thing they still have. We'll have to wait and see. So as much as I've been singing the praises and pumping the tires of St. John's and this great run they've been on, I just worry about this spot for them today. Connor, what do you think? Interesting handicap here with the Red Storm and the Friars.
Yeah, St. John's is playing so well lately. They won 5 in a row. The last few, they've been great defensively, how they held Villanova to those points. And Providence, the last few, 3 or 4 is an under. I think the total was a little high. I got it 146. I see it's already 145. So people are kind of pounding the under, as it seems. And that's where I'm looking here. I mean, it could go over the total here. But the way these two teams are going, St. John's has turned into a ball hawking, stealing the ball, getting up in transition, scoring. And the way that offensive performance Providence had without Bynum, they just aren't the same. They haven't been the same. I think without him in, these injuries, some of that, they just haven't been very good. But this is a strange spot. Well, I'd still lean St. John's, catching the 1.5. I'm off the side. But on the total, I'm on the under here, 146.
All right, liking the under here in this one with St. John's and Providence. Next up, we got Syracuse, Clemson. Clemson 3.5 point home favorites, 135 the total. If Clemson played the whole entire NCAA tournament at Little John Coliseum, they'd be made. They'd be made in the shade. They'd be all set. Let's go. We can make a run here. Problem is, it doesn't work that way. You got to play on the road. You got to play in neutral environments. You don't play on your home floor. That's going to be the issue for Clemson. If they're indeed an NCAA tournament team in March, because they've been really good at home. Yeah, 7-1 straight up mark for this Clemson team at home. I'm still not a Brad Brownell fan. I've said that ad nauseum every time we talk about Clemson, but you can't deny the results at home. Beat Louisville, beat North Carolina. It's on the road where they've been absolutely disastrous. And now they're at home against Syracuse. And Syracuse has been awful on the road. They lose by 6 to NC, lose by 20 to Pitt, lose by 23 against Virginia. I understand why the money's coming in on Clemson. They have been good at home. I still don't buy this team being a legit, team you got to worry about in March if they're in the tournament, because they just can't win away from home. But they do play solid defense. The scoring comes and goes for Clemson. They're not great at that end of the floor. Syracuse on the road, they've had some ugly showings. I don't trust them to go on the road and win this game. So the money's come in on Clemson. I understand why. I'm not betting the game. I'm just saying I understand why some people are liking Clemson. If you're going to bet Clemson, this is where you do it at home. Connor, what do you think? Syracuse, Clemson.
Yeah, Clemson's good at home. For some reason, I haven't got on the side. I'd lean with Syracuse catching these 3.5. But I like the under. I'm on the under. I've been on their home games under. They keep cashing. Syracuse scores a lot, so they kind of got it a little high than I think it should be. So I'm on the under. 135 here. I think it's Clemson has to slow it down and win 60-55 or in that range. And I lean Syracuse. It's just not enough points. Clemson's, we talked about it. You keep talking about it. Just they're such a different team at home than they are on the road. And Syracuse was catching a couple more. I might be on them, but I'd lean with the orange here in Syracuse.
Yeah. By the way, if anyone in the chat wants to know about games that we're likely not going to cover, like we're only going to cover like the marquee games. So if you have a game a question you want to ask about, like a mid-major game on the slate today, you can do that, such as what Derek Miller's asked, the Wright State UIC game. Wright State's one of the class teams in that conference there, the Horizon League. I'm not necessarily looking to step in front of Wright State. They're a very good basketball team. I'd lean to them there. Irvine and Bakersfield. I'm tempted by the points with Bakersfield. I mean, Irvine's got some offensive issues. Their guard play hasn't been that good. It's a lot of points to be given Bakersfield. They're a capable enough team. So I would lean Wright State, and I would lean Bakersfield in those two games, Derek.
I think they come back and get it today. I had Bakersfield last night, so I was a little bit disappointed. I thought they could cover last night, but obviously in these back-to-backs, I'm not back on them, which I probably should be, because I think they should get the cover today. Yep. And Wright State's had trouble, by the way, with them. They've had trouble covering numbers this year. I've bet against them a few times. They've blown out a few teams. They did it last night, but I'd be weary of Wright State today.
All right, we'd be leery of Wright State. Yeah, that's not a game I'll be betting, Derek. I just wanted to give you some kind of thought or opinion or lean on it. Kansas, West Virginia, Big 12 action. We've got West Virginia 2-point home favorites, 141 the total. I wouldn't surprise me to see West Virginia win this game. Kansas is so volatile, like they really are. I mean, they've had some really good performances, and then they have a game like that at Tennessee. In the Big 12 SEC Challenge last week, they just get eviscerated in that game. And it's not like Tennessee was in good form going into that game. Tennessee's a good team, but they weren't in good form going into that game against Kansas, and they just, laid waste to the Jayhawks in that game. I worry about that here. Obviously, West Virginia was very, very lackadaisical, I guess you could say, in the win against Iowa State. I'll say this about West Virginia. Their defense has issues. All right, they're giving up big points. They're playing faster, more possessions per game. We've seen that without when the big man left the team earlier this season. They've really picked up their pace. They played more possessions, and West Virginia's scoring the ball a ton. But I'm telling you what, they're giving up a lot as well at the defensive end here going into this game against Kansas. Kansas on the road, sometimes we know their offense can come and go. But the one thing with Kansas is look at their road results as of late. At home, they've actually played slow, grinded out games. But look at on the road. 93-64 at TCU, flies over. 75-70 lost Oklahoma State, gets over the total. Yeah. 77-69 at Baylor. Hard to pull Baylor into an over, but Kansas did at Baylor. Oklahoma on the road, 75-68, game goes over the total. And that 80-61 loss to Tennessee, that game also goes over the total. Kansas has actually been an over machine on the road. I cashed a best bet winner with West Virginia over the total on this show earlier this week against Iowa State. To me, this is an over play, clearly in my mind. You got Kansas trending over on the road. West Virginia overall, like I said, they're playing faster. Their offense is in good rhythm, 88, 80, 76 in their last 3 games scored, but they're giving it up too, 87, 85, 72. Given up in their last 3 games, 6-1 to the over for West Virginia. Their last 7 games. I'm staying off the side. I'm just looking over the total here because West Virginia trending over entirely altogether with their games, and Kansas trending over on the road. So I'm on the over here, 141 Kansas, West Virginia. Conor, what's your thoughts on this Big 12 matchup?
I'm with you. West Virginia has been they've been over, and Kansas, like I've talked about all year, they've had some games muck it up. They've been kind of over team. I've brought it up multiple times this year, which I've been a tad bit surprised. And I think this one gets over too. I'm in agreement here with you. And I lean West Virginia. I've had trouble with them. It's just I'm leaning with them right now at 2.5. They've not covered numbers. They kind of driven me nuts this year, West Virginia. So, but I like the over. And I lean West Virginia. I think they can cover it, but something about the 2.5's got me a little scared.
And the point spread's the great equalizer. I mean, some of those failures for West Virginia, bigger chalk. They're only landing 2 here in this game. Yeah. So that's why I think I might have a small bet on West Virginia, but I like the over a little bit more. I'm going to talk about this game. It's an 8-10 game, but I wanted to talk about it because it's fascinating. Could we salvage this St. Louis Billikens team, which has just, had their season completely disrupted and basically crashing down around them because of that COVID-19 break. Coming out of that break, they're 0-2, and they lost to Dayton and they lost to LaSalle, which is hard to believe. But here we are, St. Louis struggling, but they're taking money here against St. Bonaventure, a really good Bonnie's team. The St. Louis 3.5-point home favorites, 137 the total. The more the line creeps up, the more, and I worry that now that St. Louis has really disappointed me, and now I've cooled off on how I thought the world of this team early in the season. I cashed many times with St. Louis, and to see them struggle, Jordan Goodwin and all these very experienced players on this St. Louis team, and that just haven't gotten it together since their COVID disruption. It makes me worried that whether they can handle Bonaventure here. And I'm actually leaning to the St. Bonaventure side. This team's playing really good basketball. They are one of the better teams in this conference. I lean Bonnie's. Fascinating game. Can St. Louis turn this around? But again, current form matters more than full season results to me. And the current form says you got to bet St. Bonaventure here. Conor, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I think it's too many. St. Bonaventure's been playing more lately. St. Louis had the long layoff and hasn't looked good. The LaSalle they didn't lose. They lost pretty bad to him. They did not look good at all. Defensively, they were just giving buckets and buckets there. So you're going to give me 3.5 with St. Bonnie. I'm going to take those right away. I want to see if St. Louis can get back to the team I thought they were, as you talked about as well earlier in the year. So I'm going to watch this one today. But I got to grab the 3.5. There's no way, the way they just played, I'd feel comfortable playing 3.5 right now at St. Louis. I'd be sweating. I would not feel good about it. It can get it done. They get back to the team how they were playing early in the year, and like you alluded to. But I got to grab the points with Bonaventure here.
And that's why it's a tricky game. And that's why right now I only lean to Bonaventure, because right now if you're betting St. Louis, it's like, what if they get back to the form they had before the break when they were, I think a good chance to win this conference. But that's a what if situation. That's a hypothetical. If you're looking at what we've seen the last few games, there's something wrong here. This St. Louis team, but they're also capable of flipping that switch and going back to that level. So that's the thing with this game that makes it tricky to really get a hold of it. But I would take Bonnie before I take the Billikens here in that one. Wisconsin, Illinois in the Big Ten. We've got Illinois 4-point home favorites, 136 the total in this game. This should be a pretty good game. Interested to see it. I'm interested to see how Illinois, who can score the basketball pretty well, handles this Wisconsin defense, which can be pretty good on their best day. That'll be an interesting matchup here in this one. It'll be good to see these two teams go head to head. These are two teams that were very popular prior to the season in terms of teams that could win the Big Ten. This is going to be a good matchup here between these two teams. Wisconsin, Illinois with a crazy win against Indiana. Back and forth, the game felt like it was going to never end. 10 million replay reviews during that game. Ayo Dosunmu got fouled out, and had a terrible game, and yet Illinois still won. I think you got to give them a lot of credit. They had every reason to just say, not our night. Dosunmu, their best shooter, best scorer, fouls out quickly. 10 points. He didn't play all that great, but their defense stepped up. No question about that. And their last 3 games, if Illinois brings this defense consistently, we know they can. That's why I like this team a lot. But at times they've gone away from that at that end of the floor. But the last 3 games, how about 39% shooting to their opponent? That's pretty damn good. They have really found it at the defensive end of the floor. I like the way they're trending. Wisconsin on the road, they had a couple, losses against teams in this level, this rung of the Big Ten, the upper echelon. They got blown out at Michigan. I can't get past that one. They lost their last road game at Penn State, 81-71. I'm leaning Illinois here, but they didn't give me a bargain. I mean, -4. This feels like a close game. This feels like a competitive game. But I ain't going against Illinois right now. I like them. I think there's more upside with them long-term than Wisconsin. You worried Wisconsin played their best ball early in the season, and right now it's been up and down, kind of inconsistent for them with this group the last few. I like Trice. I like Davison, Micah Potter, great big man in the paint, but I don't know if we're getting Wisconsin's best right now. Whereas you flip it over to Illinois, they look like they're revving it up, getting ready for a big run, trying to play their best here, February going into March. So I lean Illinois, but I was hoping for better than -4. C-Mac, what do you think here? This is a good one in the Big Ten today.
Yeah, I think the number's spot on here. I still got to go Illinois. just Wisconsin's road failures just keep creeping in the back of my head. And as long as Illinois does what they do, I think they take care of business here. Just the contrast, as we talked about, those road games, I watched a couple of them. The Michigan one's just vivid in my mind that you were talking about. Wisconsin, and that bad loss to Penn State, that's got me in the back of my mind too, watching that game. They just haven't been very good on the road. Early game, I see how this could be close, but I think Illinois will pound it inside. They've been playing a lot better defense, as you brought up. I got to go with Illinois here and lay the 4.
All right, going with Illinois. Lane, I got to do this more often when I do this show. Lean back, as Fat Joe would
I know,
say.
I don't ever lean back.
There we go, because the microphone's going to catch my. I always feel like I got to be right up next to the microphone. This microphone's powerful; it can catch my voice pretty easily. So I'm going to lean back, relax a little.
Yeah, kick back.
Relax. I've been doing a lot of shows this week. I got to relax.
I know.
Both of us, yeah. Texas and Oklahoma State. We've got Texas 2-point road favorites, 147 the total in this game. I think Texas is the better team, and I feel I'm going to take them here at -2. We're coming off a frustrating loss to Baylor. Again, it's a really good team. I know they've been shorthanded. They've dealt with some absences. That hasn't helped, but I think they're starting to gradually get some of their guys back. Oklahoma State, it's not easy to win on this Gallagher-Iba arena floor here in Stillwater. They played good ball at home, Oklahoma State, but I just feel they're running into a Texas team that has shown you the ability to win on the road. They're 2-0 straight up in ATS on the road, one at West Virginia and Kansas, both of them quality teams in this conference. And, Oklahoma State good at home, and being back home is going to help them here. But I'm sorry, you lose to TCU in your last game, 81-78. There's some issues you've got right now. No question about that. As far as Texas goes, looks like everybody is off the injury report. Greg Brown's good. Courtney Ramey's good. Everybody looks like all hands on deck here for Texas. Off a loss to Baylor, where I thought they made a decent account of themselves. Baylor pulled away late for the 83-69 win. I like Texas here. I know they've been on a point spread free fall, 0-4 against the number their last 4, but now they're healthy. They weren't healthy during those games. Now they are. I think they come out firing, get the win. I like Texas here. I'll take them on the money line, though, instead of -2. Money line around -130 here in this game. I'll also take the over. Texas is on an 8-game over streak, 8-0 to the over their last 8 games. Oklahoma State has gone over the total in 5 straight. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. 5 straight overs for the Cowboys, 8 straight for the Longhorns. I like Texas. I like over 146 as well. C-Mac, what do you think here?
Yeah, I haven't bet this over. It kind of slipped my mind. Texas has got all their guys back. You're saying they're getting healthy. But I can't. Not the way they're playing. I want to lay 2.5 with them. I'm on the other side. I think Oklahoma State, as bad as they look, I'm going back to the well. They lost to TCU. I think they're better than that. Cunningham's just the gaff he had, in that game. So they're at home, on their home floor. Give me 2.5. So I'm on Oklahoma State. And, yeah, I lean towards the over. I haven't bet that. But I think it can get in the 150s. So I agree with you a little bit on the over 147.
All right, we've got Ole Miss taking on Auburn. Auburn 4-point home favorites here, 141.5 the total in this game. We know that this Auburn team, from an offensive standpoint, it's pretty crazy that you put one guy on the floor and look at how much better the team is offensively. And that's exactly what we've seen for several games now with the 5-star, incredibly talented freshman Sharif Cooper. Made all the difference in the world here for this Auburn Tigers team. And they've played great offensive basketball for the most part. However, this team has lost 3 of their last 4, lost at Arkansas, beat Missouri at home, lost at Baylor. But, hey, I thought they gave a valiant effort against Baylor. The loss, you scratch your head and you say, how could that happen, is the last game with Georgia. Bruce Pearl kind of ripped his team's defensive effort in that game, 91-86. I think they show up here in this game and are a lot better. This is definitely an Auburn spot. You look at Ole Miss on the road, other than one game that seems like an anomaly because of the other road games, the one win at Mississippi State, that seems like an outlier because their other road games in SEC play lost by 9 to Florida, 15 to Arkansas, 10 to Georgia. They just haven't been very good on the road other than that one game, Ole Miss. I'm laying the 4 here with Auburn. I think this is the perfect spot. 2 straight losses, the one loss to Baylor, no shame in that. big time shame in losing to Georgia the way they did. I think they'll be better here, and I think that they're still the better of these two squads. Remember, they beat Kentucky at home. They've been very good on their home floor, beat Missouri at home. They've been a good home team. I know they lost at home to Georgia last game, but a flat spot maybe. They put a lot into that Baylor game. You could tell. They gave it their all, and they hung tough with Baylor for a while. I think there was a little hangover in that Georgia game. I think they get back on track here. Give me Auburn -4. C-Mac, what do you think about this game?
Yeah, I agree with you. I haven't bet it yet. I think it's a little. That 4 numbers got me a little, thinking just a bit. Not that Ole Miss, but they've played better as of lately. But I'm gonna get there. I'm with you on this one. I like Auburn -4.
And
I
Ole
think
Miss,
they bounce back. I think they bounce back. It was such a flat spot. We said it right, before that game against Georgia. How after the Baylor game, this is flat. But they should have played better than the result. They played really bad, as you talked about.
yeah, I lean over the total as well, and certainly Auburn's trended that way. But I think their defense is going to pick it up today. And again, Ole Miss is nothing offensively compared to what Auburn's faced lately. So this is a step down in class for Auburn's defense. So I lean over, but I think the side is the better bet here in this game with Auburn. Next up, we've got let's see as we go on down the card here, Creighton and Marquette. We've got Creighton 4.5-point road favorites, 145.5. The total in this game. It's really been a struggle for the Marquette Golden Eagles. No question about that. It's been a struggle for Creighton, but you got Creighton, who's the better team, laying 4.5. And on the road, they've been kind of sketchy, and they lost. The Georgetown loss is a head scratcher at home the other night for this Blue Jays team. And they've had guys in and out. They haven't been cohesive. The offense is kind of bogged down. The defense has really been gashed lately. That's a concern, but they're better than Marquette. I think this is a buy low spot. This point spread's probably something closer to 7. If Creighton wins the other night instead of 4.5, I'm going to lay it with Creighton here. I think they get right. Marquette hasn't shown me much of anything. Conor, what's your take here?
Me too. I think it's a little bit of a bargain. If it was more, and if Marquette was playing a bit better, I'd like to take Marquette in this spot. But I think in this short price, I think Creighton can get it done. The one little thing is the little bit of woes Creighton's had on the road. But at this number, I think they can pull it off. So, yeah, I lean with you. I haven't bet this one yet. I lean with the 4.5 that they cover.
All right, good stuff. Definitely leaning with the Creighton side there in that one. All right, Arizona, Colorado. We move on down. There's a lot of games. There are not as many marquee, like two really good teams going against one another. Not as many of those today. We've gotten through most of them in that category. But Arizona, Colorado, interesting game here. Colorado, 5.5-point home favorites, 142 the total. Arizona showed me all I need to know against a good team on the road, like Colorado. Colorado, I know, has had some speed bumps too. Both of these teams just recently lost to Utah. That's pretty crazy to see that. Colorado lost at home to Utah. And, of course, Arizona in their last game lost on the road to that Larry Kraskowiak young Utah Utes team, which has been a thorn in both of these teams' sides in recent games. I don't know. Arizona, these trips are tricky. Utah to Colorado, you're playing in high altitude, 2 days, 2 games in 3 days. That's a tricky spot. For me, it would be a Colorado play or nothing at all. What do you think, C-Mac, with the Wildcats and Buffaloes?
Yeah, I had the over. That didn't get there. I thought it would be. But Utah, I thought how they played great at home. And this is another team in Colorado that's really good at home. Arizona, I don't know. They can't play in the postseason. I just don't know how much, they say they're playing hard, yada, yada, rah, rah, for Sean Miller. But I got to go with Colorado, laying the 5.5, especially at home. They've been so good at home. I think it's a little bit of a discounted price at 5.5. I think they get the cover here.
All right, there we go. Liking Colorado. Next up, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech in the ACC. Georgia Tech, 3.5, 4-point home favorites, 141 the total. Georgia Tech ran out of gas against Louisville. I mean, they played a lot of games. They had beaten Florida State at home in their previous game, and then they had to play that Monday afternoon game against Louisville. They had nothing in the gas tank, none, zero at all. Flat, just losing all the hustle plays, getting beaten up on the glass. You need energy to be able to, rebound the ball, battle on the glass, battle for loose balls, to shoot the ball well. You need energy. You need your legs. They didn't have them against Louisville, and that was clear. The schedule finally caught up to Georgia Tech, but now they're back home. They haven't played now since that game Monday. They should be get a chance to catch their breath a little bit. And Georgia Tech's been a monster here on their home floor. I mean, this Yellow Jackets team has been outstanding at home. However, there is one thing that's keeping me from laying the points here with Georgia Tech. It's Notre Dame, because I've gotten this team wrong now twice. I took Wake against them, loss. Took Pitt against them last weekend, loss. And all of a sudden, here's Mike Bray, another guy that sometimes he gets his teams getting better in February and March, and maybe Notre Dame is turning the corner here. So, look, in theory, it's never a bet for me against Georgia Tech at home, and I won't be betting against Georgia Tech here at home. But Notre Dame's perking up, and I'm getting the sense this could be a team could go on one of these 7 or 8-0 type ATS streaks here in the month of February. They're playing better ball. Their defense has stepped up. They're starting to get some offensive flow going with Gibbs and company leading the way. I've been burned going against Notre Dame twice now. I'm not doing it again, even though I would lean to Georgia Tech. That's my thoughts on it. Conor, how about you here with Notre Dame and Georgia Tech?
I've liked Tech all year. Tricky spot. I'd still lay it with Tech, but I don't know if I'm going to get to the window betting this one. I want to see Notre Dame one more time if they're playing this good. And it's the perfect number for 3.5, 4.5. It's a game. We have so many on the board. I got to pass on this one. I just don't love it enough. Not the way Notre Dame, they've got me the last couple as well. I had them early in the year. They covered a few times, catching 10, stuff like that. 9 points, but they've looked really well, especially offensively and defensively. I think this one could be tight. That's why I'm worried. So that's why I'm staying off. I could see this one, could see them maybe getting the cover, but I don't love it. So I got to pass.
You know what? We have been without, and this is going to be the last game that we preview here on the main card, and then we'll get to any chat questions, added board briefly, and then best bets to wrap up the show. We haven't had many good games late, in the late night hours in college basketball on these Saturday cards the last few weeks. But tonight we have a really good one in the Pac-12. The battle, I'm looking forward to seeing it. UCLA taking on USC. Very excited to see this one take place here tonight at the Galen Center, USC's home floor. Should be a good game. USC 3.5-point home favorites, 135 the total in this one. It should be fascinating. This is the first of 2 regular season meetings with these two teams. It's going to be a huge determining factor in who's going to be, emerging here in the Pac-12. And let's not forget, Oregon is still very much alive in this race as well, even after losing to Washington State the other night. So it's a great race here for the Pac-12. This should be a very, very good basketball game. UCLA's on a roll, 8-1 straight up their last 9 games. However, they've been the overvalued commodity, during this stretch. But again, all favorites. They beat Oregon State, lost in overtime at Stanford, won at Cal, won against Washington. Didn't cover in any of those games, but the only loss was the 1-point loss at Stanford. And now here they are catching 3.5 against this USC team. Look, USC's been on a roll too, no question. 9 wins in their last 10 games. The road game or the home games, though, Utah, Washington, Washington State, Oregon State. The road wins, Arizona State, who've disappointed. Oregon State again. Cal, they did beat Stanford on the road. Nice win, 72-66 last game. I don't know. To me, I think odds makers have made an adjustment to UCLA's point spread problems because now they're getting 3.5 here. I think there's value on UCLA. And it's tough to go against USC right now. I get that. But the Mobley brothers are just terrors right now for this USC team. There's no question. Peterson, Tajidi, they've been outstanding for Andy Enfield's team. And even with UCLA, earlier this season, losing Chris Smith for that knee injury for the rest of the season, their guys have stepped up. Their defense has really played pretty well most of the season. That's what you're going to get for a Mick Cronin coach team. The one thing is concerns me too for USC. A good quote from Enfield, Conor, with them going into this game, saying Evan Mobley, who's been unbelievable for USC this season in terms of points per game, the rebounds, the minutes he logs during games. He said something after the game Tuesday saying about Evan Mobley playing 38 minutes. He's on fumes right now, but he battled through it. But there was no way we were going to give him a rest in that Stanford game in the last few minutes. He's played a lot, and they rely a lot on that guy. And that's a telling quote that maybe at some point he's gonna have one of those games where it's just not going for him. And UCLA's got the bodies. UCLA's got the defensive aptitude to maybe make things difficult for him. I know that UCLA's been on the 4-game point spread losing streak going into this game, but they were all favorites in that game, and the only loss was by 1. And now they're getting 3.5 here. To me, this just screams the value's on UCLA, and I'm going to take them plus 3.5 here. Conor, what do you think with this one? UCLA, USC.
Yeah, I think the value's with the Bruins as well. Southern Cal hasn't played that well. Both teams kind of just getting by, I know they played lesser competition lately and kind of played down to it. I think this is a good one, and I want the 3.5. You're getting more than the 3 we always talk about, almost, more than the possession. And I think it's tight. I don't know if this one can get over the total. I mean, it's pretty low. 135. A lot of the games have been low, though, tight in this conference. I could see it getting over here. But I'm definitely on UCLA catching the 3, and I'd lean towards the over a bit.
All right, very good. Jake Kaiser, anyone like Wofford plus 6, Tennessee minus 3.5, Eastern. Tennessee's like such a Tennessee thing, right? They beat Kansas up, and then they have that terrible game against Ole Miss earlier this week.
I'd take Kentucky.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. Eastern Kentucky versus Murray State. Yeah, I'd lean Eastern Kentucky there in that one, but I haven't bet them. I don't think I will. Those games, unfortunately. In terms of the added board, very quickly, I am on a couple here on the added board. I do like points in the Boston Colgate game. It's 146. I think that game goes over the total. I like. I think people are Mississippi Valley State over as well. Grambling plus the points against Southern. I think Grambling's been a sneaky improved team this year. They're still not a great basketball team by any stretch, but they've been solid against the number this year. Grambling plus 6.5. I think that's a side worth looking at against Southern. Nicholls State, Sam Houston should be an over. You're going to get lots of pace, both sides. Both of them play fast. Defense a little bit sketchy. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at a few overs there that I mentioned, as well as Grambling plus the points. Did you see anything on the added board that you liked, Conor?
Yeah, I'd lean the over in the Sam Houston. I'm going to go back to it with Florida Gulf Coast. I know that's the back-to-back kind of factor, but I think they can cover against North Alabama again. They pounded on them last night. This one's kind of tricky. I lean Lipscomb. I think they got a pretty good basketball team all year. It's just that they're favored by 1.5. They lost last night to Stetson, I think by 4 or 5. I'd go with them. I think they come back. Both these teams are similar and win. It's just that they're favored by 1.5, so it's a little tricky. That's all on the added board. Yeah, and Grambling, you're like you said. I took them the other day last week. They are playing better. Surprisingly. Yep. And yeah, if they're catching 6.5, and that's gone down. It was higher. People have been all over that. I'd lean with the points of that as well.
So Rhode Island under against UMass, JW asking about that. I wouldn't talk you out of it. Rhode Island slowed it down lately. And with Fats Russell with that heel injury on the other day against VCU, they slowed it down even more. They were crawling the ball up the floor against VCU. There was no pace in that game. And these are the kind of things you want to take advantage of late in the season. Changes, pace changes, scheme changes, because the betting markets are asleep on that. They're just, setting the numbers side and total based on full season stats and data and results. If you can find something that changes this late in the season and odds makers are asleep and not adjusting to it, and you are, that's when you pounce. That's when you find those good spots and you make your money. And right now, Rhode Island is an under team at this point in time. I think they've gone under in 4 or 5 straight. Now, UMass worries me all the time taking an under. They're terrible defensively. They play extremely fast. But maybe Rhode Island can slow it down here. And Fats Russell's no sure thing to return today either. He's still questionable with that heel injury. So definitely, I wouldn't talk you out of that under in that one. All right. Let's see what else we've any other questions here. Tennessee good at home. Yeah, Tennessee probably does bounce back, but I'm just a little leery. All right. We're We're going to get to best bets. Before we do, Connor, word from our sponsors here.
Yeah, just everyone that hasn't done it and you need an extra book, go to mybookie.ag, hit promo code PubSports. You get 50% off your debit or credit. You get 100% off the Bitcoin. Use the Bitcoin. Just put the cash in, move it over to Bitcoin, and you put in 1,000, you get 1,000. But you got to put a minimum of 100. So at least do 100, and they'll double it. And go to bulksupplements.com. Hit promo code PubSports. Get all the creatine, protein, amino acids, all that stuff to get you jacked up. And go to builtbars.com. Hit promo code PubSports. You get 20% off your order. They got good snack bars, a coconut, mint brownie, a bunch of other ones. They're good. So go there and get it.
Marshall bounced back, against Old Dominion. That was shocking last night against Old Dominion. But that's what happens, a second half collapse. I mean, we've seen it so many times here this season in college basketball, but I think they do bounce back. The game went over the total last night. I lean that way again. It's hit or miss. A lot of the times, though, the thing that worries me is the games that are really high scoring the first time stay under the second time. So that's what does worry me there. I like the over again. I'm going right back to it. It was one of my favorite bets yesterday, UTSA and Florida International over the total. I'm sticking with it again, even though they're playing again back to back. I don't see that total. I don't see that pace slowing down. Two extremely fast teams, two sieve defenses on both sides. And we certainly saw a game like that last night with the Roadrunners and the Golden Panthers there. So I think you'll see points in that game again as well.
Yeah.
So those are a couple from that CUSA slate of games that I'm looking at for today. All right, best Rice too. I mean, Rice overs. Rice is just scoring at will right now. And they're, of course, a above average tempo team. They pulled Southern Miss, who are offensively challenged and very slow, into an over yesterday. So Southern Miss Rice could go over again. I lean that way as well.
I'm on the Weber State over too. I think it goes over again. Even though it's 146. I mean, I know there was 96 to 88. I don't think they get that high, but I still think they can get over 146. So I'm on that in the morning too. Another over I was on. If anyone's asking.
We're using StreamYard, Draft and Stash. That's how we do our shows. We don't use Zoom. We use StreamYard here. So that's, if you're saying it looks a great look, what are you using? It's StreamYard for the shows here. Good stuff. Great interaction in the chat. I'm seeing almost 150 live views. I think we're getting close to a record here. That is unbelievable. Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate that. We got something good building here at Pub Sports Radio. Great shows, great content, more subscribers, more people watching this great content on this channel on a daily basis. Keep it up. Thanks for the support. We appreciate it. Hopefully we can touch wood. We can keep this best bet streak for me going here. Connor, you had a nice best bet winner too on Thursday. Ohio State plus the points against Iowa, winning right. Guys, good stuff there. Connor, what have you got for an encore with a best bet for this Saturday card?
Well, I'll kind of give Saturday so big. I'll just give two. I mean, we'll do it down to one. We didn't talk about this game. I think Virginia's really good, but I got to take Pitt taking 11 points, and that's even moved. I just think it's too many in that game. But my best bet's St. Bonaventure plus 3.5. Until I see something out of St. Louis, I'm going to take these points. The Bonnies have been playing, and St. Louis hasn't. So I think catching points with them is a good bet. I'm on St. Bonaventure. So those two, plus money.
All right. Which one are you going to make the best bet?
I'll do St. Bonaventure, best bet.
All right, St. Bonaventure plus 3.5. Yeah, there's some days I'm like, can you give me 3 best bets, please? But yeah.
Yeah, I was just throwing 2 because it's Saturday card.
But St. Bonaventure plus 3.5 against St. Louis. Best bet for Connor Mack there. Mine is going to be, I was going to go with Kansas, West Virginia over 141.5.
I like that.
A really good bet, but I went with a West Virginia over. I like giving us a different, change of pace, a different idea, different thought process, different team. Yeah. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go with Auburn -4, and I'm going to put my faith in them against Ole Miss. I think it's a great back spot. They've had one good game on the road, Ole Miss, in SEC play at Mississippi State, and I don't trust them as well. It's a little bit of a flat spot, letdown spot too. The Tennessee comeback the other night. I don't trust Ole Miss to go on the road, keep it up. They've been way too inconsistent this year. I like Kermit Davis. He is a coach I respect, but I don't think this is one of his better teams. They've been eviscerated on the road other than that one win they had at Mississippi State. And I think they get Auburn's best game. I think Auburn's done fooling around. It's now 2 losses in a row. The Baylor loss, I understand that. Nobody's going to accept that they lost and played as poorly as they did to Georgia. I still think this team's better than that. You look at the overall sample of sample size for them since they got Cooper on the floor. This has been a much better team. They've had good home wins, including against Kentucky. I think they get the job done here. Auburn -4 against Ole Miss. That is going to be my best bet. Looking for 5 in a row for me. Best bet winners here on the college basketball closing time show. That'll wrap it up. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. We appreciate it. We'll be back with you. Conor and I will be back with you tomorrow for the NFL closing time show, Sunday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Our final thoughts for Super Bowl.
Super Bowl, baby.
The big game, as they like to call it.
The big one.
Vegas, where you are, Conor. Looking forward to our final thoughts. It'll be a lot of great hopefully it's a great game and it delivers. But we'll have our final thoughts on that, Conor and I, tomorrow. Ski is normally on the NFL closing time show, but he has another prior commitment, so it'll just be Conor and I tomorrow on the show. And we'll be back as well Monday with the NBA show, Ski, Conor, and myself at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on Monday. For Conor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Saturday. Enjoy the games and good luck. We'll see you again tomorrow for the NFL closing time show right here on Pub Sports Radio.
Peace.